All rise for the outlaw! All rise for the jobber! Damian Priest is a trash can! You know, listen, here's the thing about tonight's episode of Raw. I get through like halfway through, I'm like, okay, this is like an average level episode. It's like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 episode. And then the second hour happened, and I'm like, okay, this episode is absolute garbage. Because as it went on, you're like, this is just more and more filler. That's all this episode was, it felt like, was literally just filler. Filler nonsense, filler garbage, and absolutely no development in 95% of these storylines. Nothing really changes, nothing really happens, and on top of that, all of the stuff that we actually got, at least some of it, or I'd say over half of it, was boring. And that's just not a good recipe for a good episode. That's why the episode was not good. In the main event segment, I mean, honestly, dude, this New Judgment Day is washed. They are washed. Liv Morgan is washed. Raquel Rodriguez is washed. Dominic Mysterio, we're going to get to him later. He's absolute garbage, and he's also washed. However, the only thing that was really good tonight was there was a couple good things, right? Starting off with this. Jey Uso opens up the show. He basically is out there in the ring, he's yeeting, doing all that stuff, and he basically says, I want to talk to one Uso right now, and we all know who that is. And then Jimmy Uso comes out. Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso basically go in the ring, you know, they're cutting a promo after, you know, they made amends on last week's SmackDown and hugged it out and everything, and they're back together or whatnot. Jey Uso basically warns Jimmy, though. He forgives him, and he's like, look, we're going to work together to stop this new solo bloodline because these dudes are dangerous and they're ruining the family. However, this time around, we're all going to be equals, right? Jey is basically saying that, you know, I won championship gold without you. You know, the reason they could differentiate us is because of the stuff that I did. You know what I'm saying? This is a different type of deal now. We're not just going to be yes men and buddy to Roman Reigns immediately, right? He's always going to be our family and we're going to love him, but we can't just be yes men. We have to be our own men this time around, and we have to be treated as equals with the big Uso Roman Reigns. And Jimmy Uso's like, all right, bruh, I got you. We're going to talk to the OTC this week and we're going to team up and band together. And obviously, spoiler alert for this episode of SmackDown coming up, it is taped. And I saw the spoilers. We are likely going to get a match. Apparently, we are confirmed to get a match between Roman, Jimmy, and Jey Uso versus Fatu, Solo, and Tama Tonga. That's going to be the crown jewel match. It'll probably end up main eventing the show because, I mean, Roman Reigns is involved, so that's likely going to main event, right? This is how it works. And later tonight, Sami Zayn shows up, so I'm sure he's going to get involved in all this madness and action as well. So, Crown Jewel is actually looking pretty decent, but we're going to talk about that in my predictions video, probably dropping tomorrow. But yeah, that's pretty much this segment. The Bloodline comes out, though. They you know, ambush Jey and Jimmy, and they beat him up for a second, and, you know, Jacob Fatu's about to slam a chair into Jey Uso's face, but Jey Uso just picks up the chair like he actually uses his brain, not like most people do when they're about to take a meteor with a chair on their neck. He picks up the chair and just throws it at Jacob Fatu, and then him and Jimmy have to double super kick Jacob Fatu like 3 times in order to get him to fall out of the ring, right? And then that's pretty much this. Solo doesn't fight at all. He just kind of sits by and watches. And then obviously Tongaloa is an absolute botch master. So, you know, that's pretty much the deal. But, yeah, that was pretty much this segment. Then after this, we get Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser. This match is okay. Like, it's solid. It's decent. I mean, you know, what else is new here? Ludwig Kaiser has lost to Sheamus at least 2 or 3 times this year, not including this match. Like, it's the same match. There's only so much you can do at this point, right? Sheamus is just known for putting on solid matches. I mean, for the most part, he's putting on good/great matches, but this match was kind of just, like, decent. It was, like, above average or average level. Nothing really crazy happened in this match. Sheamus wins again, so he's now, like, 3-0 or 4-0 versus Kaiser, so, you know, that's pretty much the situation with that. I'm not gonna lie to you though, this specific part where they were like recapping moments from Mania 40 and they showed the part where The Rock like kicked Seth Rollins' title out of the ring after they beat Cody and Seth at Mania. This was awesome, man. They were showing the part where The Rock told the F, he's like, you know The Rock doesn't F around, and you have Roman talking trash as well, man. And I had no idea that The Rock just kicked Seth Rollins' World Championship belt just out of the ring. He just kicked it to the side. So this was hilarious how they kind of recapped that run in that moment at Mania in that match, man. So, I mean, surprise, surprise, the only thing that was good was a flashback to their greatest PLE they've done in years, so congratulations. Then after this, we get Rhea Ripley cutting a awful promo. Rhea Ripley now has officially become arguably the most overrated wrestler in the entirety of WWE. She just is. She doesn't do anything. And it infuriates me that Rhea Ripley gets to sit here and do absolutely nothing every week. Nothing. She doesn't wrestle. She doesn't cut good promos. So it's like, what are you contributing? She's wrestled, what, 1 match on Raw since January of 2024 this year, bro? She doesn't do anything. It's absolutely infuriating how she's just living off of reputation. Yes, she had a masterclass match versus Charlotte at Mania 39. Awesome. She had a decent match versus Becky at this year's WrestleMania. It's an overrated match, but it was decent. But what about that is special? She's been champ she was champ for like around a year, and she had 2 good matches in her title reign? Are you kidding me? She doesn't know how to elevate feuds. She doesn't know how to elevate her opponent. It's just like, what makes her better than like, I don't even know, what makes her better than Bianca, Jade, Tiffany Stratton, Nia Jax even? Even though, and I know what people are thinking, oh, well, what are you talking about? Rhea Ripley's the best in the company. She's way better than those people. No, she's not. Rhea Ripley is only known because of star power and because of weirdo fans on like Instagram and Twitter who are like, oh, she thick, bro, mommy, mommy, mommy. You know, all these losers, right? All those people who do that stuff, it's nonsense. Outside of those weirdo fans, what is the appeal with her? Genuinely, what is the appeal? She wrestles decent matches when she actually wrestles, but when you're wrestling 4 or 5 matches a year and you're not cutting any good promos and you're not building any stories, what am I supposed to say about that? I'm supposed to sit here and call her amazing? No, of course not. So she cuts the same promo where she basically says, she says the same stuff. She's like, Raquel, you talk a lot of trash and I've made mistakes in the past, but I am going to get the one thing that I never lost, the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. It's like, how many times are we going to say this? How many times are we going to go through this, man? It's nonsense. So she basically says it in the backstage promo and then she's never seen the rest of the night because stars now, or quote-unquote stars, wrestlers in general, don't show up to work. And because of this is another problem I need to quickly rant on. We get remixes of these same people in the same matches. And you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about as we go on with this review. So we'll get back to that in a second. After this, we get a little segment backstage with Jay and Sammy. So pretty much Jay and Sammy, you know, Sammy asks Jay to talk specifically just to Jay, and he tells, you know, tell Jimmy to move away or whatnot, right? And so Jimmy moves off to the side, and, you know, that's pretty much the situation with that. But Jay and Sammy basically tells Jay, there's no way you're rejoining this bloodline and working with Roman and Jimmy again after everything they've put you through, after everything they've done, and you're still going to side with these guys. They abandoned you, you know, they treated you poorly, they did all these things, you know? And Jay Uso's like, you wouldn't understand, Sammy, because you're not family. You know what I'm saying? This is blood. This is a bloodline-related issue. Kind of like the similar thing before, like back in 2022 when Sammy was the honorary Uso and they were trying to tell him, like, you're not part of the real family, and Sammy had to prove himself. It looks like Sammy may have to prove himself again, just like, I guess, Jimmy and Jay kind of had to prove themselves again to Roman or whatnot, right? So it'll be an interesting storyline, but later on, you know, I mean, during this promo, Sammy mentions about, like, how Solo might be in the right in this situation, right? And, you know, he talks about how Solo, you know, even though he seems like he's on the bad side, he's going against the tyrannical ruler of Roman Reigns. That's how Sami Zayn kind of words it, right? So that's the situation with that. We'll get back to Jay and Sammy and Jimmy a little bit later because Jimmy does try and talk to Sammy later, but, you know, that works out how it works out. We'll get to that in a little bit. Then we have Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed. This was a very, very good segment, and I enjoyed this. Seth Rollins pretty much goes out to the ring, and he's like, Bronson Reed is trying to bring out a dark side in me, a darker half, but I kind of like it. People forgot the type of guy and the type of competitor that I am, but I'm going to show you how devious I can really get. That's pretty much what he says, right? I'm paraphrasing. And after Seth Rollins says this, Bronson Reed pops up on like the little video channel screen, and then pretty much Seth Rollins decides to go find Bronson Reed in the parking lot, and they fight it out. Seth Rollins hits a curb stomp onto the car, which was pretty sick, and after he hits a curb stomp onto the car, Bronson Reed like gets up after like 10 seconds while Rollins is trying to like cut a promo, and then Bronson Reed picks him up from this like pickup truck they were fighting near. He puts him in the truck and then absolutely just power slams him, bro, through 2 tables right off the truck, man. It is absolutely sick. Bronson Reed is a savage, and they're trying to make this into a storyline now where Rollins is severely hurt and may not be able to make the match on Saturday at Crown Jewel with Bronson and Seth Rollins, and it's like, dude, they try so hard to make random excuses at this point. If they remove the Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed match from the card, I'm actually done. Like, I'm actually done at this point. They find excuses. Just listen, if you know you only want to have 5 or 6 matches on the card, just say that. Don't make 6 or 7 matches and then start cutting them using some stupid excuse in the storyline. It's dumb, right? So Rollins and Bronson Reed better be on that TV screen on Saturday, because I'm excited to see that match. It should be really good, and I'm hoping it's probably going to end up ending in a DQ, because I don't think either of them is going to win clean, and I think they're just going to brawl till the end of the match, or until the ref calls it off, or until one of them uses a weapon or something like that. So that's the situation with Rollins and Brunson. Then we had Ivy Nile versus Zelina Vega. Then after that, we had R-Truth in an elite segment with great humor. You're probably wondering, oh, why did Ivy Nile and Zelina, why'd you skip over that? Nobody cares. One thing I will say about Zelina Vega, her moonsault is horrendous. It's awful. It's absolutely horrendous, dude. She did a moonsault versus Ivy Nile, and she overshot it so bad that she landed in the middle of the ring by herself. She completely missed. An absolute botch. And people are like, oh, well, why don't they give the woman more time? Why don't they give... Some of these women's wrestlers just suck. Why do you think the PFC and like Kaden and Katana Chance and Zelina Vega barely get TV time? They're garbage. right? They're just trash. It's that simple, right? So, you know, when they're not getting TV time, don't complain. Just bring up talent from NXT and fix the problem. Bring up Roxanne Perez, who even though I think she'll be a jobber on the main roster, bring her up. Because why not? She can't be any worse than Liv Morgan and these other jobbers and Rhea Ripley who barely shows up to work and does anything. So just bring people up like that. Kalani Jordan, Jada Parker, you know, Tatum Paxley, who's a better wrestler than 95% of this woman's main roster, you know, etc. Do your job, right? Anyways, R-Truth has a phenomenal segment with elite humor. He basically comes out in the backstage. He's talking to, Alpha Academy. And he's pretty much talking to Otis and Maxine and Tozawa. He's doing this little funny, jokey thing. And then The Miz pulls up. And The Miz basically R-Truth called Chad Gable short and ugly, by the way. And he's like, he's a moron or something. So that was kind of funny. And then The Miz comes back there. He's like, yeah, you know, looks like you're siding with these morons here, Truth. Because he's like, you're talking to Snow White and the two idiots. And I was like, The Miz actually did a good job with this segment. And then after that, The Miz is like, yeah, I need help, Truth. I need your help, man. I don't know what I was doing. I overstayed my welcome, and I betrayed my family, bro. And they try and, you know, team up again. And R-Truth and him are standing side by side. They're like doing the little like side shuffle that they do. And then R-Truth is like, oh, I got something for you. He reaches in his pocket and then punches Miz in the face. And then Miz slides down to the ground. And then R-Truth is like, yeah, that's what you get for, you know, all the stuff you've done the last few weeks. So that was pretty much that situation. It was a great segment. And it ended with R-Truth walking past Pete Dunne. And he goes to Pete Dunne. He's like, yo, what's up, Butch? You seen Pete Dunne anywhere? It was absolutely hilarious, man. R-Truth is one of the greatest comedy acts in the history of professional wrestling. This dude is going to go to the Hall of Fame, and he's a walking entertainment piece. He's literally a walking embodiment of entertainment. That's all it is. Humor, entertainment, and, you know, occasionally when he wants to wrestle a match and actually, you know, they let him try or do something interesting, he wrestles a good match every now and then. So R-Truth is pretty good, man. He's awesome. Next was a tag match between Rey Mysterio, who wrestles more than Rhea Ripley, Gunther, and Cody Rhodes combined, by the way. And, you know, I forgot about this. Speaking of Gunther cut a backstage promo, and guess what he said? Absolutely nothing. He said nothing because Gunther doesn't do anything. Just like Rhea Ripley shows up and just cuts backstage promos or doesn't wrestle, that's what Gunther does. He shows up in a suit every week and says ring general, ring general, ring general, ring general, and then doesn't wrestle. He's the general of the ring, but doesn't wrestle. You know, he's the workhorse of the company, but has 2 matches since winning the world title back in the beginning of August. So you tell me who's the world workhorse. The guys like Rey Mysterio, who's in his 50s, wrestling what, 10 more matches than Gunther this year on live television? Or the dude who's saying he's a workhorse, who's wrestling 2 times on TV, but he wrestles at a dinky live event twice a month. Like, nobody cares, dude. Come on, man. He doesn't even say anything in this promo. He's like, oh, Cody, I'll see you on Friday and I'll fight you and Randy. Blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. Then we get a tag match, Rey Mysterio in Dragon Lee versus New Day versus the War Raiders. This match was pretty mid. It had a couple good spots with Dragon Lee doing like a senton, and then like Rey Mysterio did like a Hurricane Rana from the top rope. And then after this, you know, Kofi Kingston and Xavier about to win. Xavier's about to do a finisher from the top rope, a little elbow it looks like. And then Xavier Woods just runs out of the ring mysteriously and goes and fights Rey Mysterio to, you know, make sure he wasn't on the apron to cost him a match. It's very stupid. It's bad booking. And by the end of this, Chad Gable interrupts the LWO and just puts Rey Mysterio in an ankle lock, costs him the match. And now we're going to have the War Raiders winning that match. So that's pretty much it. I don't care. You don't care. Nobody cares. Then we get back to the Usos and the Sami Zayn situation. Jimmy Uso goes out to the parking lot area to try and talk to Sami Zayn, but he realizes that Sami is near the car of Solo Sikoa and he's kind of talking to Solo. So he thinks that Sami is going to end up siding with Solo most likely, so he doesn't try and, you know, recruit Sami to the team, and that's pretty much the end of this segment. Basically what happens here is that Jimmy and Jay are coming to the conclusion that they won't be able to get the help of Sami and that we're going to have to fight this on our own. And obviously, we all know Sami Zayn is going to show up at Crown Jewel and end up helping them out in the 4v3 versus the Bloodline. It'll then be a 4v4 when Sami gets involved, all right? This is going to be pretty awesome, though. I'm actually excited to see Sami Zayn back in the Bloodline if they do that. It is kind of interesting what they're doing with the Solo situation, though, because Sami does kind of have a right to work with someone like Solo if he really wanted to, right? So, I mean, honestly, it kind of works both ways. It's an interesting story. It's the only thing important that actually took place inside of this story, inside of this Raw, I mean, so that's that. Then we have Miz and Karrion Kross. This was stupid. Karrion Kross is talking down to the Miz. He's like, shut up! You're gonna do what I want you to do. And he's like, what does he say to him, man? He said something absolutely dumb. Karrion Kross says something along the lines. He's like, no! One of my guys took a bullet for you! For you! I'm like, dude, shut up, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, Karrion Kross is talking down to The Miz, and he's telling him, you're going to go find Uncle Howdy for me, and you're going to do it now. I'm like, who are you talking to? Karrion Kross is an absolute and utter jobber. This dude's won nothing in WWE, and he has the audacity to tell The Miz, who won a WWE championship before, retained it at WrestleMania versus John Cena, and you're going to sit here and tell this dude what he's going to do. The Miz should have fought back and talked back. I don't care if you get 4v1. Worst case scenario, just go find a group of lackeys yourself. Go get the Alpha Academy and go fight back against AOP. AOP is a bunch of jobbers. They haven't won a match in months. If they can't beat anyone else, why are they able to talk down and beat up on The Miz? It makes no sense. But anyways, after this segment happens, we get to the main event. Damian Priest versus Dominic Mysterio. And I hate to break it to you guys, but Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio are jobbers. They are absolute and utter jobbers. They don't contribute anything to these shows. They contribute nothing. And I'm sick of the narrative that, oh, well, Dom gets booed out of the building, so, he can't cut a promo. He can't cut a promo with or without the booze. you know what I'm saying? So just stop the nonsense. He can't cut a promo with the views. He can't cut a promo without the views. He sucks. It's that simple. So once you get that through your head, you'll be good to go. Dominic Mysterio and Damian Priest come out here, and it's basically a squash match for 95% of it. Dominic Mysterio literally just gets beat up for 95% of the match. That's all it is. There's nothing to go over here. There's literally nothing to go over. He gets beat up for 95% of the match. The Judgment Day predictably gets involved. Damian Priest beats the crap out of him as usual, because we're going to talk about this in a second. But the booking of the new Judgment Day is awful. And honestly, I prefer this new Judgment Day to just break up. I'm done with the Judgment Day, I'm done with Rhea Ripley, and I'm done with this current iteration of all these jobbers and all these characters. It makes no sense. There is no way that I'm going to get invested in a storyline that's constantly contradicting itself every single week. 1 week, Rhea Ripley is 1v4 in the Judgment Day. Raquel Rodriguez is said to be the equal of Rhea Ripley. Keep in mind, Rhea Ripley beats the crap out of Dominic Mysterio pretty much every single week, right? But Dominic Mysterio tonight is able to roll up Damian Priest and just pins him. This is the same dude who was fighting with Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, right? Gunther. And this dude now is getting rolled up on by Dominic Mysterio, who wrestled nothing in that match. He had maybe 2 moves of offense the entire match. It makes absolutely no sense. And then the show awkwardly ends with just Damian Priest beating up Dominic Mysterio. That's all it is. He hits him with a chair 3 or 4 times and then hits him with the South of Heaven. And that's it. That's it. That's the end of Raw. I'm like, how in the world did Damian Priest get an opportunity to main event? This dude's theme is awful. His presentation is awful. He has the voice to cut good promos, but he doesn't cut good promos. And his in-ring moveset is actually pretty good, in my opinion. He's pretty solid in the ring. He's a good wrestler in the ring, but outside of the ring and storytelling-wise, he carries nothing. He's not a draw. Damian Priest should never be main eventing your episode of Monday Night Raw. And when the Judgment Day booking, like I said, is so contradictory, where Rhea Ripley can 1v4 the Judgment Day, but they can't 4v1, but they can't 4v1 her, you know what I'm saying? And another thing that also bothers me, how is it that Rhea Ripley is able to beat the crap out of Dominic Mysterio, but the woman that's supposed to be quote-unquote built up as her equal with Raquel Rodriguez, even though she's being booked horrendously, she just gets destroyed. She doesn't even try and help out versus Damian Priest. She doesn't even try. It's like, what is the logic here? You can cost them the match and distract them there, but you can't distract them from trying to beat up Dom after the match. It's just inconsistently written. Rhea Ripley can beat up everybody, but nobody can beat up her and Damian Priest. That's literally the booking of the new Judgment Day, and that's why it makes no sense. And on top of all that, Finn Balor isn't even out here tonight. He didn't even show up. He's not even out there. He's backstage, and then he just doesn't show up for the main event. It's very odd, man. It's very weird, and it's absolutely stupid. Damian Priest is talking about going for the world title and being El Campeon, El Campeon, El Campeon. And he's not winning anything. He's not doing anything. He's not contributing anything. And that is exactly how every episode of Monday Night Raw continues to be. This episode is not one of the worst Raws I've ever seen, but it was 100% below mid. This is easily has an argument to be considered a very bad episode. But I'm just going to say it's just a bad episode. Not the worst, but it was bad. I would give it like a 4 or a 5 out of 10. It's better than the last couple of weeks that were absolute and utter trash bag. But quite frankly, they're on the same level because every single Raw show the last few weeks has achieved absolutely nothing. So, I mean, who knows at this point, man? This episode was garbage, 4 out of 10. And stay tuned for the Crown Jewel predictions video coming out tomorrow or the day after. And I thank you guys so much for the recent support. I just hit 20K subscribers. So, thank you guys so much for your support over the last few months and over the last, pretty much like 6-7 months I've taken this stuff seriously and started to, grind and everything with the wrestling content in general, whatever. So, thank you guys so much. I respect you. I love you. I need you. And as always, I hope you guys have a phenomenal day. Deuces. Ooses.